And there she is. Welcome
Hi.
into our Instagram Live feature, Krystyna. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. I just realized I misspelled your name in our pinned comment. So let me get that changed real quick.
It's all right. It's a
Uh,
difficult name. Don't blame me.
Autocorrect doesn't like me as well, so we'll get that.
Welcome to my life.
We'll get that fixed here for you. 1 second. First, let me start while I get this corrected. How is everything? I want to start by saying this will be the first Instagram Live we'll be doing that is global. We'll be doing it through you are located right now in Cyprus, which is pretty amazing. So, how has quarantine been in Cyprus?
Yeah, it was a little rough. It was about a 58-day period where we weren't allowed to leave the house. And for about half that time, you were allowed to leave the house, but you had to send a message to the government, like a text. Like you had 8 options to choose. You had to send the number. And then after about, I guess the last like 2 weeks or maybe 1 week, you could send 3 times a day to go out. But now we're completely out of quarantine and we're like back to normal life. We had 0 cases on the 23rd of May. And since then, it's averaging around 1 or 2 per day. So it's pretty nice.
That's pretty remarkable. It's a lot of process, but I mean, we're glad you're safe and we're glad you're kind of staying at home there. So
Hmm.
let's jump right into your collegiate career. You know, you're from New Jersey. How did you land at Winthrop?
So I knew I always wanted to go south. I felt like I was always a southerner at heart. So my grandpa and I scheduled a week-long tour of all the schools that I wanted to look at in North Carolina, South Carolina. And like it was a really long week. We're talking like 15 schools in 7 days type of long. And Winthrop was one of the last schools, if not the last. And I remember we got there around the afternoon time and we went on the campus tour and then we went to the Winthrop Lake. And as we drove around, it was sunset. And right when we got to the part where Eagle Field is, it was like just the most beautiful scene I've ever seen in my life with the sun setting in the lake and everything. And I was just like, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And even going on the campus, I was like, this is exactly what I pictured myself doing with my life, like going to college. And sorry, that's my cat's tail. um, just exactly what I pictured for my college career. And that's why I chose it.
So you scored the most goals in Big South history through your career at Winthrop. Have you always been a natural goal scorer? Usually, when we talk to forwards throughout the conference, they have remarkable stories of growing up and just scoring a bunch of goals. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would consider myself like a goal scorer since I started the game, I guess. I remember one game in specific when we were up by a lot, like 10 something to 0, and my coaches put me at goalkeeper. And little rebellious me was like, I don't care. And I took the ball from my goal and I dribbled up to the other goal and I scored. So I guess, yeah, you could say that I've always wanted to score goals.
Just comes natural for you. So so some memorable career in the Big South. Is there any memories that really stick out for you while playing at Winthrop?
Yeah, definitely. There's one memory in particular that really has always stayed with me because it meant so much. It was my sophomore year, and we had the tournament, the Big South Conference tournament at our school with the rotation, and it was like super cool because a lot of people don't even get that while they're in school. And we were playing match against High Point, and it was like do or die. Like we had to win, or we were going to get kicked out on our own turf. And I know I was really close to my seniors and we really wanted to do it for them. And I scored the game winning goal in that game. And I just remember when I scored the goal, it was a throw in. I turned, I shot my left foot. I just remember turning around and seeing all my friends that were seniors, seeing their faces, how happy they were. And that's something that's going to stay with me forever because the game, like, yeah, I like to score goals, but I like when I can score goals to help other people and to bring up the team and just do my part as the team, as a part of the team, I guess is what I'm saying.
This week we're announcing our all-decade teams, and you're on the ballot, of course. And it might be a pretty big announcement for you this upcoming week. But what would it mean to you to actually be land on that all-decade team?
I mean, it would just mean so much. I've won a lot of awards throughout my career, like top scorer, best 11. But, college was such a special time for me. I really developed a lot. And however cliche it is, like I grew so much as a person and as a player. And so to win something like that, it would just mean so much because it really showed that like I did grow a lot while I was there. I remember the girl that came into Winthrop and she like didn't know what she was doing. She she was good at soccer, but she was kind of lost, I guess is what I'm going to say. And then, yeah, I just transformed into this player who was on the track to go pro and getting good grades. And so the Big South did so much for me, and not just on the football level, or soccer, sorry, I say football now. Just all across the board, every mark they hit. And yeah, it just means so much, really.
Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of women's soccer players in the Big South that actually do turn pro. Was that always your mindset as soon as you entered the doors at Winthrop?
Yeah, however silly that sounds. I mean, I guess it's not silly, it was my dream. But I do remember we had a meeting my freshman year, like during preseason with the academic squad, and they were talking about how important it is to, get good grades, because how many of you are going to be professional soccer players? And he wanted people to raise their hand. And I didn't raise my hand, even though I knew that I wanted to be a pro soccer player since I was like 5. But yeah, so I did know. I might not have expressed it to everybody at the time, because also I didn't want people thinking like that's my only goal and that I wasn't going to focus on school. But yeah, for me, it was always like that's what I wanted to do. And I did want to always play in the US, but it turned out that that wasn't my path. And my path was to go overseas and to play abroad.
That's awesome. So after you graduate, or after your eligibility is up at Winthrop, you train a little bit here with a professional team in Portland, but then you head out to Finland. So talk about the differences between Rock Hill, South Carolina to Finland. That's got to be a culture shock a little bit.
Culture shock, weather shock, everything shock. I mean, anyone who's been to Rock Hill knows it's warm, it rains, it's beautiful. I'm not saying Finland wasn't beautiful, and it was about 80 something degrees beginning of April when I left, and I got on the plane from Charlotte. And when I arrived in Finland, I got off the plane, and from the plane ride to the house where I was staying, it snowed 1.5 feet. And I was wearing my like winter jacket, and it was just like that first moment I was like, okay, this is going to definitely be an experience. But the culture in Finland, I loved it so much. We were in a really small town, really far north. I missed the Northern Lights by like a week because I got there a little bit too late. But it was really awesome. We biked everywhere. And it was just such a different experience from what I was used to. So it was really nice to go out there and experience something so different, because it helped me grow and be more professional and learn these things about being abroad, being on my own, and how to apply that when I came back to the US.
How did that process work? I mean, who got you over to Europe?
Yeah, so I did have an agent at the time, and after leaving the Thorns, I had my meeting with Paul Riley, my end of preseason meeting. And when he told me that they weren't going to sign me on the team, he said, look, I want you to look at this list of all the players, and I want you to see what I have written next to your name. And out of the whole list of all the players, I was the only person who he had written to go abroad and to play in Europe. And I said, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I told my agent, like, look, let's go to Europe, because that's what I've been told to do. And I respect Paul Riley so much. Every time I've been with him, he's been such a good coach and leader and inspirationist, I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to do, and I said, okay, let's do it. Talked to my agent, and they found me a team overseas.
So after that, you come back to the States, you play a season with Copa, and then you're named the most valuable player within the UWS. Like, what did that mean to you?
That also meant a lot to me, because it was the first season of that league. It was an inaugural season. And so, no one really knew about it, but there were so many good players in that league. A lot of players who have gone on to play professional after. Ones who I've kept close contact with to this day are playing Spain, Sweden. So, just because it was a second division league doesn't mean that it wasn't filled with high quality players. So to be able to win that award against so many good players and so many different styles of play, it meant so much. And honestly, when they told me, I was shocked, because I knew some of the players that were playing in the league, and I was like, wow, this really makes me feel like I do deserve to be here. And it was a good stepping stone for me, especially playing in that league, because it gave me the platform to really prove myself playing against those players and to go on. And then eventually when I left, I did go up to the Western Europe Flash. So it helped me build and that next step in my career.
But then after that, you missed Europe so much, you decided to go back, and you landed in Cyprus. And talk about that process.
Cyprus is such a funny story, because it's like so typical, like this is what women's soccer professionally is. I was in Orlando at the airport visiting family, and on my way back, and I got a call from my agent while I'm waiting for my flight to board. And he says, look, there's this team in Cyprus. They've been wanting you to come for 3 years, and I think you should go. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my career at that point yet. And I was like, okay, like I know some players that played there. Let me call them and see what they say about it, to check out what it's like. And one of the players I called was Ashley Nick, who was a friend that I met at Sky Blue and again at Western New York. She was there. And she said, "You won't believe it. We're here right now in Cyprus. Like, come over." And so I left from Orlando, flew to New Jersey, and within 4 days I was landing in Cyprus.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, on the field, the goals just kept coming. And then in 2018-19 Champions League, you ranked second in the whole tournament in goals scored. You know, what did that mean to you? That's amazing.
Oh, that was so cool. You know, I never even played in Champions League before. And the team that I'm playing on now, Pawn Ladies, it's known for bringing in American players to play in Champions League, and then they typically leave and go back to the U.S. or whatever domestically that they play in. So it was my first time, and I was really nervous, and my team had never played in Champions League either. So we were all in this really state of like, well, we can do anything because we have nothing to lose. And so I went out there, and in the qualifying, we like just killed it. Like our coach, we were all together. Every member of the team was on the same page, and we killed it. And, you know, I can't obviously take all the credit for my goals. My teammates passed me, and they wouldn't have got me the ball if we weren't in such a state that we were in of excitement and just energy and ready to go and ready to prove ourselves. So it was amazing. Then we went from the group stage to the round of 32, and we got Glasgow. And that was awesome because they were like the optimal choice for us to compete with. And we did. We pushed them. We lost 2-1 in aggregate, scored them at home. So it was something I never even dreamed of, how amazing it was, the traveling, meeting people, hearing from people across the world that saw my name in an article from UEFA. And yeah, and I played in it again this year, and same thing. It's a really, really amazing tournament, an amazing opportunity. And I'm just really glad that I was able to participate in that.
Just in your short time in Cyprus, I did the math. It took me a little while because there've been so many goals, but 211 goals just in your short time in Cyprus, and you scored 7 in the Champions League this past year. Like, what has been the biggest difference from you transitioning to being in America so far and kind of learning the game here to go into Cyprus? What's the difference being on the field?
It's a lot different, but it's also not different because in Cyprus, we have on my team now, we have a lot of foreign players. So you actually get a lot of different styles. Like we have players from Greece, Latvia, Sweden, Iceland, Slovakia. So we have players from everywhere. And a lot of those players either have played with Americans before, or they've been to school in America, or they've had some type of stint over there. So a lot of them know how Americans play. And, you know, so it wasn't really hard for me to transition to Cyprus. I guess more it was about like the awareness of women's soccer that really was the difference, because, you know, you're used to in college and in club games or UWS games, you have a lot of fans there. Whereas in Cyprus, in a normal game, unless it's a derby, you maybe have 25, 30 people there. So I think that was the biggest shock for me, was just not having people at the games. You know, there's not a lot of exposure. People don't even know there's a league here. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully something that will change within the next few years with the rules with UEFA and how they have to have women's teams and they have men's teams. So I'm thinking in the next 2 years, it's going to be a lot different all across the globe.
Very true. So what, off the field now, what's the difference between the biggest difference between the United States and Cyprus?
I mean, I know parts of America have nice weather, but like Cyprus has super nice weather. Like, I don't know if you can see, I'm like sunburnt because I was out yesterday. I just went for a walk for like an hour and I got so burnt, but it's fine. Once I get a little bit of color, I'll be okay. But yeah, I live 2 minutes from the beach, where if you go in the water up to your shoulders, you can still see your feet. And so living in New Jersey, that's not something I was really used to. And also I can drive like 30, 40 minutes and go to the mountains and go skiing in the winter. So it's really cool that I can do both those things. And the culture here is amazing. Like the food, the people, the music, like I love everything about the Cypriot Greek style culture. I think it really fits well with my personality, because I'm just like a go with the flow type of person. And that's how Cyprus lifestyle is. They go slowly, they relax, they enjoy their coffee, and then they do what they need to do. And that's pretty much how I live my life anyway. So it's perfect.
So also off the field, you began an organization called World Women's Soccer. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so like I was talking about how there's not really a lot of representation for women's soccer players, I created this platform from a tweet I saw. And they were saying, I wish there was one website with every women's league and competition in the world. And I was in the process of building my own website, KrystynaFreda.com, which is like my stats, my videos and stuff. And I was like, well, I can make a website, like no problem. So I started making a website and I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of work here. So I asked one person I know that is really into women's soccer as well to help me. And so we created this platform, and it has every almost every league, maybe minus like 10, which we're actively speaking to find more information. Like over 200 countries with national teams, 150 different competitions with leagues, scores, standing news, information, everything you could like think of. And now we're actually going to be launching the next part of our platform, which is going to be our locker room, which will include services to help players reach that next level. Because what we want to do with World of Women's Soccer, we want to help them on and off the field. So we have the website with all the information that you can look at, but now you can go to the locker room and you can have resources like highlight videos, game analysis, nutrition education, mental training, because people don't realize how much part mental game plays, especially when you're going to be going overseas and transitioning cultures. It's a big, big mental block, and you need to get past it to be able to perform. We're going to have mentorship programs because it's really difficult if you don't know what it's already like to play pro. How do you do it? How do you get there? Do you need an agent? Can you do it on your own? These are all questions that we can help answer because me and people that I'm working with have been through the same situation. So I think it's just a really good platform that players will be able to use to help get them to that next level, because there are so many opportunities out there that players don't even know about. Like every player probably in the Big South could come to Cyprus and play, but they don't know about it. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to help everyone that doesn't want to stop their career to continue their career on to that next level.
Well, stemming from that, if we have women's soccer players maybe watching this right now, what kind of advice would you offer them if they're kind of on the fence about, do I want to continue my career?
I would tell them to do it. You know, you can always get a job, you can always go get your master's degree, but you can't always play. And you might think that your career is going to stop after college, but it doesn't have to. And if you have enough drive that you really want to do this, it's more than attainable for you to do that. You don't necessarily need an agent. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. You know, it's up to your personal preferences. But if you really want to do it, there are ways you can do it. You can go to information. You can go to my website, my personal website, my business website. There's information everywhere if you just Google for it. And there's so many other players also out there who are sharing their stories as well. So I would just say, if you really want to go play, find people who have been there, ask them the questions you need to ask them, and then do it, because it's so achievable, so attainable. And I want more players to do that.
That's a great way to end it. Krystyna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're really looking forward to you getting back on the field and watching you play and continue your awesome professional career.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.
You too.